I'm very hopeful, and I think we're going to end up getting the best case, which is we're going to go to free trade again, or close to it, which is important for everybody on both sides. That's fundamental. But we're going to go back to free trade with a better deal for America, and that's a good deal too.
It's also a good deal potentially and a big relief for the semiconductor industry, your former business. How much does this help the semis whose stocks have gotten hammered over the last few months?
I'm not sure that the decline in semiconductor share price, which is traditionally always down in the dumps starting in late October, is due to this. But yes, obviously China is one of the biggest consumers of semiconductors in the world, and not having a war going on with them would be important. I'd also, one more comment, like to point out that they need the chips badly. I never was really worried that we wouldn't be able to sell to them because they need our chips. You can't get them anywhere else, and they wouldn't be competitive without them.
TJ, clearly in terms of a possible full free trade agreement being reached one day, IP is high on the list of US concerns. To what extent is any deal on that front ever going to be enforceable?
It is enforceable if the company's big enough and tough enough to spend the money and take the time to enforce it. In other words, how do you rip somebody off? You make something and it violates their patent. And then, of course, what happens if you're selling it? The company has to find it out. That takes money and time. Then they have to get a lawyer. Then they have to find out how to sue you. They have to find out how to block your imports. So it's hard to get enforce IP, but when it's important, it can get done. And when the law's on your side, typically the threat of a lawsuit means that they will negotiate with you rather than just continue to rip you off.
One other interesting side story that came out of the weekend meeting and the ceasefire between Xi and Trump was that, you know, according to the White House statement, Xi opened the door for the Qualcomm NXP approval, which I guess Qualcomm is ruling out at this time. Do you think that that says something about the cycle, that they're no longer interested in that deal?
I think they know they can't get the deal anymore, and therefore there's no leverage in them for holding it up for themselves. They've got a 5-year plan which says, directly that they want to become #1 semiconductor supplier in the world in this next 5-year plan. It's not going to happen. But the point is, they can buy stuff as opposed to just building it from scratch. And I think they know buying companies containing secrets and using that IP is not going to work for them. I think that's been proven to them right now, so they don't care anymore about Qualcomm.
Do you think it puts any other deals in play?
I don't think so, because most of the deals that would surprise you would be China buying somebody, and those are the deals that have just been kind of pushed back on.
What do you make of the recent broader pullback in tech stocks? I mean, if we take Apple, for example, do you think that is a temporary pullback because of trade fears, or when you hear various analysts lowering their expectation for sales of smartphones, do you think something more secular is taking place, that we've seen a peak in that kind of technological supercycle?
I think we've been in the tech cycle for a long time. I think tech stocks have worked their way up to a very high level. I don't see anything fundamentally wrong. If you want to talk about cell phones, we're about to go to G5. You're about to get a gigabit per second across your cell phone. So the whole world's going to redo, or a significant fraction of the world's going to redo their cell phone. That's a huge driving force. And I think we're just looking at seasonality, of Apple being up or down, and you add a little nervousness with a potential trade war, and people get out and wait to see how things settle out before they get back in.
So TJ, if I'm reading your comments correctly on all of this, it sounds like you're not too optimistic right now on the prospect for semiconductor stocks. I mean, NVIDIA at one point was down 50% from its October 1st high. Are you saying still that this industry is in correction?
It is in a correction, kind of, but the correction happens pretty much every year. If you guys want to do a little work, go back and graph semiconductor stocks in April, May, and in October, November, and you'll see that there was money to be made almost every year when people get out. in the fall and the winter and get back in the spring. So, no, I think the technology is fundamentally there. I think it's important. It hasn't lost importance. The Internet of Things is going to connect pretty much everything in the world. Heck, I'm working on a company right now that's connecting farm equipment to the Internet so that we can track and water properly based on measuring water. So with all this going on, these fundamental forces in Moore's Law in the industry, the stock's up or down. To me, buy low, sell high. It's low right now. If it goes down a little bit farther before it turns around, don't worry about it.